What can you learn from the movie Braveheart to be a successful project manager? My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management specialist. I help professionals to become successful project managers. I decided to do that because, of course, I love this movie and I love watching movies in general, but I think there's quite a lot of nice lessons that you can learn there and you can implement in your project management career, and that will help you to be a successful project manager, meaning that will help you to improve your performance, will help you to get a promotion, and so on. So let's talk about that. First of all, okay, what's the movie Braveheart? I'm not sure if everyone's seen this movie, but Braveheart is a movie from 1995. So it's quite old one, almost 30 years old, but it's an epic historical drama film that's based on the history of William Wallace. That's one of the Scottish warriors that becomes a hero in the First War of Scottish Independence against England. So it's a very emblematic movie, and of course, I was a kid the first time I watched it, and I've watched this film several times through the years, and there's always something that when you watch the movie is very motivating, it's very nice, everything. That's of course, it won a few Oscars, but you can see there. So the story, everything is very compelling, very nice. And here I'm putting just some general quotes from William Wallace in the movie that's played by Mel Gibson. And you can see there that he talks that every man dies, but not every man lives. And of course, the other one that's quite nice, that your heart is free, have the courage to follow it. So if you haven't seen yet, I do recommend that you watch it, or maybe you can rewatch it again. But maybe you can look for the points that I'm going to tell you here, because also that will help you in your career, that will help you to develop yourself, and that will help you to be a more successful project manager. So what are the lessons that you can learn from this movie? Well, first one, in the beginning of the movie, that here you have, I just put a picture of a scene. Then you have this here, this kid here, it's the young William Wallace, and this is his uncle. Just after that, basically William Wallace's fathers and his brother, they died in war, and then his uncle go there to pick him up to raise him. And one of the things that this is of course very beginning of the movie, one of the things that he says to his uncle Argyle says to William Wallace kid is like, first you learn to use these, then tap in his forehead, and then I teach you to use these, and then he shows this is his sword. But how? Okay, I know that no one's going to fight a war, then you do not, in theory, we do not use swords anymore. But what is important for you here? What he's saying is, basically, a sword is a tool, and if you do not know how to think by yourself, how to solve problems, how to think outside of the box, how to think about strategies from what you want to achieve, like this sword by itself will not help you, because you can know how to fight, but you're not going to win a war just because you know how to fight. You need several other things to win a war. Then like only one person, if it's your only talent is fighting, meaning that if you are a good project manager, or if you're a project manager, your only talent is using a tool, for example, MS Project, does not mean that you're going to be able to deliver the project successful, because a tool is just a tool. So if you want to be a successful project manager, you need to know tools. Of course, in this case, he explained, you need to know how to use a sword. So you need to know to use the tools that you have there to use as a project manager, and that can vary, but usually you need to know how to use Excel, PowerPoint, Word. You need to know how to use MS Project, or maybe Jira, maybe Trello, maybe Asana. But only knowing how to use those tools will not make you successful. This is very important. Here it's a point. When I was working with engineering, procurement, and construction projects a few years ago, at the time I was already a project manager, then we had big projects, then a lot of times we end up hiring a planner there, something just responsible to take care of the planning of the site. But one of the problems that we had there quite often is we end up with a resource manager that would hire someone for the project, and the only thing that, or the one of the things that they were looking for is someone that knows how to use MS Project or how to use PC's Primavera. But what happened with that? Well, a tool is just a tool. So I've seen people that they want to be planners to plan the site, and they were very proficient using MS Project, but they could not do much because they would not understand what they need to do there. They would just say, okay, I know how to use a tool. In this case, you know how to use a sword. But once we put him in the battlefield, he just did not know what to do. What's the strategy? How you are going to win the war against your enemy? How you are going to accomplish something? What you need to do to accomplish something? Then he does not know. He just thinks that he just hits the battlefield, takes the sword out, and goes try to kill people. That does not work. So a tool is just a tool. If you want to be a successful project manager, you need to know how to use tools. Again, can be several types of different tools. I mentioned a few, but you also can have SAP, you can have Oracle, and all other types of ERP, and depending on how the company works, even more stuff. But what's the point here? That a tool will not make you to be a successful project manager. So you need to understand about leadership, you need to learn leadership, you need to learn problem solving, you need to learn about the different frameworks. But that's what's going to help you to be a successful project manager, not only learning tools. And when I'm talking about tool, of course, you can see a tool as a software, but also you can kind of relate that with a framework. Because I see people saying, oh, I know everything about Scrum. Okay, you can know this. You can know Scrum, the framework by itself, but if you do not know how to use that in practice, also that does not help. So this is a very important point. A tool is just a tool. You need, if you want to be a successful project manager, you need more than just knowing how to use a tool. And I'm also saying that because I see a lot of people thinking about, oh, okay, I want to move to project management, and the first thing they start about, what are the tools there? Yeah, the tools are not the first thing that you need to learn. The tools are something that you need to know, but I would hire someone that has problem-solving leadership skills every time up someone that just tell me that MS Project, Primavera, Jira, Trello, or whatever other tool there. So thinking about that, another very important lesson, it's explain the why. Let me give you some background about the scene here. This is basically the first battle that they go for the battlefield against England. And when they get there, there's people like this case. This scene is those guys here that they do not want to fight because they see the England army there, very big army, well structured. They had a cavalry and everything else, and they were just free people trying to fight for our freedom, their country. And they say, no, we are not going to fight against that because we are going to die. Then we prefer to run. And then, of course, William Wallace makes a very nice speech about freedom, about the chance to have their own country and to have to live life in their own terms. And that's very nice, but that's, of course, not the reason why I'm telling you that. The thing is, you can relate that also with your team, because a lot of times you give instructions to your team, say do, and depending on the type of framework, and you can argue if you should do that or not, but that's also another discussion. You expect someone to do something, but this person does not understand the reason why they need to do something. What's the impact in the entire project from what they need to do? Why they need to do it? Why it's time sensitive? Why they need to accomplish it? If they don't, which other persons, what's the impact in the other persons if they do not do that? So explaining the why is quite important. You're also going to see There's a very nice, probably one of the most famous TED Talks that you can find there with from Simon Sinek, that he talk about start with the why. There is even a book talking about that. But explaining the why, it's very important so people understand why they do that, because they need to have a reason there. And in this case, in the movie, they say, I'm not just going to fight for the nobles, because if we won the war, the nobles will get more land and we need to work more for them. Then, like, I do not care about that. So in other words, they say, I'm not going to fight just because of money. Then it's also your team telling you that, yeah, money is important, your salary is important, and this is of course an extrinsic motivator. And if you do not have a good salary, that's also will demotivate you to you. But that's not enough to motivate your team. So explaining the why will help you to motivate your team. So in this scene, they were saying, I'm not going to fight basically for the nobles, for their money or whatever. But once William Wallace makes his speech about freedom, about having their own country, about being able to live life in their own terms without being afraid of England, then they decide to fight and they win the battle. So understanding the why can motivate you a lot and can motivate your team a lot. So focusing on that, it's very important. It's very important that when you have meetings with your team, you explain why those things are important, why you are looking for something, why you are trying to achieve something. And of course, if you have a good why, people who can do basically anything. And this is an example. They were willing to die for their freedom and for their country. And this is a very nice scene. You might have seen even memes on internet about that. Basically, what I want to reflect about this scene is think outside the box and hold the line in your team. That's why you have the hold the line. Well, one of the challenges they had to fight England, it was the England cavalry, and because the Scotland army, or they did not have a big cavalry there, and they were like, okay, if you're just in the infantry, the cavalry just run us off. And then they were saying, okay, that's not impossible to defeat the England cavalry. That was never done in my life. I've seen that. I have quoting something. I have been working with that for 30 years, and that was never possible. That's something that you might hear there. And then William Wallace has an idea to create spears of 3 or 4 or 5 meters. I do not know. And they just hide those spears, and they keep waiting the cavalry running against them. And when they were really close, at the point that they cannot turn back or cannot stop anymore, they just raise the spears and hold it. So basically they destroy the entire cavalry. And again, this is the same battle, but they win the war. One of the reasons why they win this battle here. And why I'm saying that, thinking outside the box, the first thing that I want to mention. Because you are going to hear a lot of reasons why your project cannot succeed. You are going to see people telling you, that's why I even mentioned, I have been working with that for 20 years and I've never seen something like that. I have been working with that for 30 years and that's not possible. Or I have been working in this company for 10 years and I've never seen something like that in my life. I have been working, that's something, quoting something that I've heard from one of my projects, just apparent this year that I just got a new project that was a few years ago. It was to build the electrical infrastructure for a wind farm, and it was a 12 months contract, and the contract had very heavy penalties in case of delay. And then one of the first things I was assigned as a project manager, people told me that I've never seen in this company delivering a project in 1 year. So you're going to fail or that, or you are already in big trouble that. So instead of accepting that something is not possible, think outside the box here. If in the case of the movie, and here this is not a history lesson, keep in mind that the movie is based on historical facts, but of course they adapt in some cases, and I'm not sure if this scene is fully true or not. But he started to think outside the box. Instead of accepting that he could not win the battle, or that he would just need to run away because the English cavalry was undefeatable, he'll say, okay, how I can defeat them? How I can defeat them? There's always a way. And you, as a project manager, you need to be this person motivating your team, or trying not pushing is not the right word, but showing to your team, asking questions, and trying to make your team thinking outside of the box. And again, this is teamwork. It's not that like you as a project manager will come there to say, I'm going to come up with all the solutions, but you need to be open there, and you need to make sure also you have this kind of culture in your team, this kind of mindset there. And even for the people that will tell you that's not possible, start to ask questions. What if we do that? What if we do that? And in the case of my project, that it was never, people were telling me that was not possible to deliver this project in 12 months. I did manage to deliver the project in 12 months. Then of course it was possible. It was not easy, as a lot of times it's not easy. It's not simple, say, okay, I do that and then have an idea and then it's solve it. Of course, you need also to execute it. You need to align with your team. But this is quite important here. You as a project manager, you cannot be the person finding reasons why you cannot deliver a project. And I mentioned to you one of my cases, and I'm going to mention to you one case that I had probably 1 month ago, or a couple of, I don't know, 1 or 2 months ago, that I'm working as a mentoring consulting for a company. This is one of the biggest aerospace company in the world. And in this case, I was supporting a site in Belgium. And they were struggling with their project there. And then they called me and say, we need help. Can you try to help us, give some direction, how we put this on track and so on. And one of my first discussions with them, the first thing I've heard that say, we cannot deliver this project. Then this was the project manager. And then I start to ask questions. Why? And they say, because this will not get on time. Then this, in this case, was tooling. But I say, okay, how many tools do you have? More than 100. Okay, which tool you are not going to have on time? Then he was like, I do not know. And say, how can you not know? I do not have the lead time for all the tools. Yeah, but then you are assuming you do not even understand the problem that you have. And you are saying, because then he told me, yeah, but the senior project manager, he told me that it's not possible to get these on time. Then, whatever your position, senior project manager, junior project manager, project coordinator, you should not be the one saying that you cannot do things, even before you understand what's your problem there. And of course, sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you're going to find issues. Sometimes you're going to find delays. And then you need to explain why, you need to explain the causes, the actions that you took, and so on. But that's your last resource. Your first action should be always look for ways to deliver of the project. Once you have a problem, do not say, I have a problem. How can you solve this problem? So thinking outside of the box is very important, because in the end, everyone can point out problems. That's not a difficult thing to do, right? The world is full of problems, but what the world needs is people trying to solve this problem. Then keep in mind that you are paid to solve problems, and that's how you add value as a project manager. So if you can solve more problems and bigger problems, you are delivering more value. That means also that you are going to grow in your career. That means also that your value in the market, in this case, you can see this as salary, will also grow. So this is very important here, and very important lesson. And when you look for this scene, it's quite nice. If William Wallace would have accepted defeat, saying that the English, they are so powerful and we cannot never defeat them, then they would probably lose the battle, and then it would be done. So this is a very important point here. But there's also something very interesting in this scene here. It's that I'm calling here hold the line with your team. So imagine that you have the line there, then you have the cavalry running against you, and people start to get anxious, and he starts to basically scream, hold, hold. Why he's doing that? He's guiding his team, and he's trying to get confidence with his team to execute what they need to execute correctly. And more important, he's there with his team, because if at some point people just start to raise the spears too soon, the cavalry would see it and they would just go around them. Then this is very important here to execute things in the right time. So you need to give right instructions with your team. But also hold the line with your team means that you are going to be there with your team for the good and for the bad. And of course, here you see him in the middle of the battlefield, because in the old days, even the generals, the kings, they would go for the battlefield and they would fight themselves. But this is a very important thing, because, and this is also impacts a lot the performance of your team. You might not see that, and that might be cultural. But I've seen project managers, like, if something goes wrong, the first thing that they do is find someone in the team to blame. This is not holding the line with your team. Okay, I know that sometimes you say, okay, but it was a mistake from another area, from someone on my team or whatever, but you are the lead, so you are the responsible. So if you are the project manager, be there, take the hit with your team. Do not be there to blame them. Saying, oh, but that's not my problem, someone else in my team did something wrong. No, you are the project manager. Take the responsibility, take the ownership there, and learn how you can make different in the next time. Because that's very important. Because that's also how your team is going to respect you. Because no one likes to work with a person that the first thing that goes wrong, they are going to point out, oh, this guy is the one to blame here. So this is very important. And this is the type of culture that if you can develop in your team, that you are going to make a high-performing team there. So holding the line with your team is very important. Shoulder to shoulder there, as if you were in the battlefield, like here. Like, yeah, take care of your team, get each other's back, protect your team. That's your job as a leader there. This is quite important here. So hold the line with your team. That's a very nice lesson that you can see here in this battle also. Let's move forward, because I have more. Another very interesting thing here is the picture of a sage of York. And at some point, they won this battle. The one that I just pointed out some pictures, if you haven't seen the movie. And then there's a discussion, and then people ask, what you are going to do, William there? William Wallace in this case, that's the hero. And then he says, I'm going to invade England and defeat the English in their own ground. And there's one of the nobles say, then all the nobles start to laugh in his face, and one of the nobles say, invade? That's impossible. And he basically replies, why that's impossible? Everyone that thought it was impossible that we would defeat them in the battlefield, and we just did it. Now we can invade them. And he goes again without the support of the nobles, and he goes and invades York. What do you have to learn with that? If you do not believe in something, then you are done. You are not going to achieve anything. If you do not believe that you can get a job as a project manager, you're done. You're not going to get a job. There's also a nice quote from Master Yoda from Star Wars that he says, do it or do not. Meaning that, or either you believe and you're going to do it, or you do not believe in it and you're not going to do it. Either way, everything will start with your mindset, how you think about that. What's the framework that you have in your mind? Because if you think that you're going to fail, you are going to fail. But if you believe that you have a chance, you can win. Of course, if you're saying, I'm not telling you that because you believe something that's going to be true. And here that's very important part. If you like to read, to understand more about that mindset, I recommend you to read the book that Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And he talks about how to develop the mindset, the belief. But one of the things that people always ignore in when people talk about, of course, believing, mindset, visualization, that all those things are important, but without action it's not going to happen, because then you get to the point saying, I believe I can be a project manager. Nice, that's the first step, and you need to believe, otherwise you're not going to make it. But the next step, you need to take action. Because I've seen people, I want to work, saying, I want to work as a project manager. Then I ask, okay, are you looking for positions? No. Are you already working as a project manager? No. So how you're going to make this happen if you do not do anything? This is quite important. And this entire thing, if William Wallace in the movie say, I'm going to invade English and I'm going to defeat the English in their own ground. And what he does, he goes back home and just sit there. And of course that would not possible. So what he does, he truly believes that he can do it. Then he takes his arm and march to York. And they do a siege in York and they conquer the city. So believing that you can achieve something is very important. But do not mistake believing in something and not without action. Because then that really does not work. Because a lot of people think that you need to be ready to start. But it's actually the other way around. You need to start to be ready. And another example, of course, I'm already mentioned the movie, but if you want to learn how to swim, you can study whatever time you want about swimming. But to learn how to swim, you need to enter the pool. And then you're never going to be ready to swim, only study. So you need to enter the pool, and it's exactly the same thing with project management. You're never going to be ready. You can do all the types of training, all trainings in the world, including the training I have myself. You can do all the certifications that you want there. But if you do not work with project management, if you do not work as a project manager, then you're never going to be ready. So make sure that you take action there. But when I of course you need to believe that you can do it. You need to feed and to put your right mindset to make sure that you can do it. But then you also need to take actions to make progress. But there's also another very nice saying from James Clear. James Clear is the author of the Atomic Habits book. Very interesting book, very good book. I do recommend that you read that. That will help. If you can implement 10% that he does have in this book, I'm sure that you are going to be able to improve your performance. But basically, he says people a lot of times they mix up movement with action. Because what is movement? For example, for you can be movement. Oh, I started to study project management. If you're not working with project management, this is movement, which in general is good. You need movement, and you need some type of movement so you can hit to action. But if you never apply for a project management position, then you are never taking an action. Because only study, it's like if you're trying to learn how to swim only by reading a book. You need to enter the pool. But of course, you need, so again, believe it and take it action. And in this case, if William Wallace would not have believed it, that he would not be able to, of course, to invade England. And the last lesson that I want to share here, it's about leadership. And this is probably one of my favorite leadership lessons from this movie. First of one, or here I'm putting few quotes from the movie itself. One, that's that the nobles are saying that why they will fight, why they will not fight, and so on. And then William Wallace tell the nobles, there's a difference between us. You think that the people in this country exist to provide you with a position. I think your position exists to provide those people with freedom. In other words, if you reflect on that in leadership, you have a leadership position. So the people, let's say, around you does not exist to provide you with a leadership position. You are there as a leader to serve your team, not your team to serve to you. This is a very important different mindset, because if you I've seen project managers like that, project managers, directors, they think that people below them, between brackets, because in the org chart you can see below them, but in the end everyone is equal, of course. They think those people are there to serve them, because I'm a manager, so I can do whatever I want. I can tell these people, and my command is an order. Of course, I'm exaggerating here, but in the old days, like the nobles, it was like that. So no, it's not that. You as a leader, you are there to help your team, to support your team, not the other way around. Of course, your team, they are going to support you as a leader. That's always the case, because there's also always exchange. But you should not put yourself in just an Iron Throne, another Game of Thrones reference here, and sit there and say, I'm going to call all the shots because I'm the boss, I'm the king. No. If you try to work as a project manager, you are going to fail, because you need to work there. Remember, you need to explain to your people the why. You need to motivate your team. You need to hold the line with your team. You need to think outside of the box with your. You need to put the work with your team. You need to fight with them side by side. And you should not think yourself because you have a privilege, because you're a leader, your team owns something. That's basically a difference between a leader and a manager. If you want to be a leader, you need to understand that leadership is a privilege. So you are there to make people's lives better. Meaning, how can you support better your team? How can you improve their lives? How can you help them to achieve more, to perform better? So this is very important, because very often you see the other way around. And that usually does not work. And that's, of course, people that have this mindset, they become the extraordinary leaders. And in some situations, they become even heroes, like William Wallace. That's a Scottish hero. So that's something very, very powerful. And this is the next part. That is probably the quote that I like the most in this movie. That where they are discussing. Here's the Robert the Bruce. Robert the Bruce was one of the nobles or that had a chance to the Scottish title. And then William Wallace he says, we have titles, we have land, so life, it's not so simple as yours. And then William Wallace tells Robert the Bruce, but men, they don't follow titles, they follow courage. Putting that in your reality as a project manager. People will not follow you because you have a title. I'm a project manager, or I'm a manager, I'm a director. They follow courage. They need to feel that you have leadership skills. They need to see that you have heart. Because that's what people love, to follow someone that has a heart. Not just someone that has a title, that maybe it's a smart person, but not have scheme the game, does not have heart or anything else. It's just sad. I mean, you do not connect with someone like that. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm talking at least about myself. The worst thing that you can have there, it's a leader that it's not opening up or does not have open discussions with you, because it kind of you say, oh, I'm talking with this person here just because he's a manager. But yeah, we do not share anything in common. This person does not have courage. This person does not have a heart. So, and you've heard it, that you don't need to have a title to be a leader. And that's 100% true. because people will follow you if you see that you have a heart, that you have courage, that you are honest, that you have principles. That's what people like to do, that you are trying to work to achieve something, that you have a good why behind you. That's what how people want to follow you. And like no one wants to follow just a title. And you've seen quite a lot of in organizations. Of course, I do understand that in different countries you see a lot of flattery for managers. I've seen or in plain words ass kissing, and that people say go there a director he do just a very stupid presentation and people start sending messages. Oh, that's incredible, very insightful. Why? I don't get it. Oh, because I want he likes me. That's not a way to build a relationship. You cannot build a relationship based on lies. You cannot build a relationship. You need to be honest, and you need to have the courage to do that. And of course, that's why you see courage as one of the Scrum values there. Because if you want to have a high performing team, you need to have courage. You need to have openness. You need to have people committed with that. By the way, those are Scrum values that I'm mentioning here. And this is perfectly aligned with the PM Box 7 edition. So do not put yourself in a situation that you think because you're a project manager, people will automatically follow you. No, they are not going to follow you. If you're a project manager, if you start to annoy them, they might do something for you. But if they do not want to do it for you, for sure it's not going to be the best work. For sure it's not going to be a high performance team. So leadership is one of the key pillars to be a successful project manager. And those leadership lessons that you can learn in this movie here, they are quite incredible. And that's why I mentioned I've seen this movie several times, probably more than 20 or 30 times through the years. And I always watch it again because that always motivates me. Because remember, men don't follow titles, they follow courage. Make sure you like and share this content so it can get to more people and more people can learn project management. Click already in the button here again, like it. Make your comment here. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you like this content because also that motivates me to do more content like that and help you to achieve more with project management. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to ask your questions here in this video, or you can also follow me on Instagram. There I have the Q&A box open every day and you can ask all the questions and I'm here to support. Thank you very much and see you soon.